Hello everyone and welcome to another Pokemon Pocket video. Today I've got another deck list for you, and it's another list that's kind of off meta and has no EX requirements as well. So pretty achievable even if you're one of the newer players or you don't have a massive collection yet or anything. And it's a dark type list, something that I've been messing with pretty much from day one when I was trying out Zubat Golbat to try and help with all the Mewtwo spam that was on the ladder. And if there is a deck that can help with this, it's definitely this one. The main goal of this deck overall is to sort of punish a lot of the psychic spam we're seeing with a lot of Mewtwo EX, which is reasonable, one of the key cards in the game right now. And this deck does really, really well versus that. But it also, it's not just like one single hard counter, it's just pretty solid overall. It only runs two Pokemon sort of lines, let's say. So we have the Ekans to Arbok, two ofs in the list, as you can see. And then we have Nidoran up into Nidoking. Nidoking, I know, is a bit of a fan favorite Pokemon, or at least from the people I speak to, it is. It's cool. I wanted to really try and get some use out of it and see how powerful it can be. A few things to bear in mind, or the few sort of big points for this deck list are, one, of course, the Arbok's corner ability. If you've not come up against it yet, I'll give a brief explanation. Basically, whenever Arbok attacks, that Pokemon cannot retreat. The only way I think you can get around it is if you evolve it, but it can't retreat, which means if you've got a Pokemon and you pressure in it, your opponent can't just yoink it out with X speed or just do it the old-fashioned way, obviously. It's literally stuck there, so it won't be able to retreat, and it'll let Arbok just keep on chomping. This can be really good, combined with, of course, Sabrina, which you can see is a 2-of in the list. Not necessarily for, like, because your opponent gets to pick, you're not always able to get like the perfect swap, but honestly, even swapping into something that doesn't have energy on it, because a lot of the time people are sort of juicing one big Pokemon to sort of win the game with the energy. If you swap something out and it's got no energy on, and then corner, use Arbok's attack, it's going to be at least, that turn if it's got a 1 energy tap, but more than likely, it'll probably need, maybe 2 energy before it can really get going, and it means Arbok just gets to just chomp on something and take it out. Obviously, again, bear in mind, these attacks from all these Pokemon will do an additional 20 versus Psychic, so when you see, like, Ekans into Arbok against, say, a Mewtwo, you know that they're dealing 50, 60 with Giovanni, of course, initially, then the 150. Yes, the deck doesn't do well against the 150 damage, but the idea with this is to really get there earlier that it doesn't really matter, because even the Ekans and the Nidoran are dealing 40 damage for 1 energy, which puts the Mewtwo down to 110, and then the second you evolve them, that damage ramps up. Like, Arbok does 80 per hit against a Mewtwo, which is really strong, and also a lot of players put like 1 Mewtwo EX inactive, 1 in on the bench. And if they put an energy on the 1 active and then you swap them and then start chomping, they're like a whole turn's worth of energy behind, especially if they can't get hold of Gardevoir. So again, deck's really good against Mewtwo, who would have thought it? And it's okay against everything else. I would say it's like decent against most things. It does struggle a little bit versus Pikachu EX, but the more I play the game, the more I'm starting to lean towards probably the top 2 decks right now for me are Charizard EX, Pikachu EX. They're probably like tippity-toppity sort of thing. And it will struggle a little bit versus the Pikachu. Versus Charizard, you can actually just crush your opponent before it gets going. You can stop a Moltres retreating, and then if they swap in Charizard, you can then maybe swap it out with Sabrina and get one last knockout on something. But yeah, overall pretty strong. The Nidoking, you could try some other Pokemon, but honestly, the one I like, Nidoking, but also just 150 health, 90, which is effectively 100 damage because the poison always happens at least once. So it's basically doing 100 dark damage, which is pretty powerful. And then there's the 1 Giovanni in there to sort of push it over the edge if it needs to. The real reason Nidoking's in there is for something to sit on the bench and sort of gain energy, because you only ever really need 2 for Arbok. Even though its retreat cost is 2, it's doesn't feel often worth retreating, and hence why there's only 1 X speed in there. But the Nidoking can do a lot of damage, and especially when we are doing Sabrina swaps. If we Sabrina in something a bit smaller, suddenly 100 damage, minimum 110 with Giovanni, is a lot to really put a lot of Pokemon in some danger. So yeah, I just wanted to try this list out. Someone suggested me trying something like this in my stream the other day. I gave it a whirl, and I do like testing decks that aren't just the typical meta put 2 EX Pokemon in and go kind of scenario. I do like experimenting a little bit, and we won a lot of games. Like, we didn't only beat Mewtwo, although it's probably its best matchup, but we won a lot of different matchups. The Arbok damage can really run away with your opponents, especially when they can't retreat and swap out. So yeah, it's definitely worth checking out. A deck I've had a lot of fun with, and maybe a little bit lighter on the collection because there's no EX Pokemon required. So yeah, that's the list. Just a little bit quick one just to highlight the list. I feel like I can't make videos of all the decks I'm trying fast enough, so I'm just trying to do a pretty quick format for you guys. So yeah, that's going to be it for this one. Thanks a lot for watching. Let me know how you got on with this list, if you tried it, or any changes you would make. I'll see you next time.